Hello everyone and welcome to Helix Plays Games. My name is Richie and joining me this week is Mr. Rob. Rob, how are you?
Hello. I'm very, very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm pretty good. Just been in the gym. Literally, I pushed back the recording today so I could get to the gym. You know, when the motivation's there, you got to roll with it.
You know, right? When that train rolls into town, you don't decide the schedule. The train comes when it wants to.
It does. Thank you for being very accommodating with that, because it does affect your day as well. Chris has taken the day off, spent some time with his family. He will be back tomorrow on Talking the PS, though. We've got a great show lined up for you this week. We'll be discussing Games with Gold has finally gone to the graveyard, Hogwarts Legacy and Diablo 4 selling incredibly well, and there's a new GamePass tier in town. All that and much, much more in this week's XPass. But before we get into it, if you haven't already, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications turned on so you're kept in the loop with all of the great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as the aforementioned Talking the PS, where every single Tuesday, Chris, Rob and I break down all the PlayStation news happening for you in the Sony side of gaming. We also have our Amazon Luna podcast, Luna Listening, when Amazon actually produce enough news to make it worthwhile as actually recording a podcast. The show's not dead. We do intend to keep making episodes. It's just, I think the last month or so there's just been no news, so if there's nothing to talk about, we're not going to take time out of our day to just ramble on for an hour about absolutely nothing.
Yeah, maybe Christmas time.
Yeah, we've had enough of that with Sound of Stadia in the past. We don't want to go through that again. We also have our live streams, which we bring for you usually every Thursday, sometimes every Friday, where this week Chris and I played Exoprimal.
How did you find it?
I actually enjoyed it. I don't think I'd pay for it, but there again, I'm very much on record as not being a multiplayer gamer. It feels like it should be free to play, though.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I jumped into it kind of independently because our schedules just don't really sync up on a Thursday. It feels like one of those kind of free to play games which prioritizes chaos a bit more than refinement. And I think that's like the difference between a game I'm willing to pay for and a game I'm willing to
I think
out.
When you get good and you start really understanding how the characters, if you had like a team of 5 that you were playing together, I could think there could be very much an esportsy thing going on there. I think the concept of the game is actually really good, and I like how when you're playing through the war zones, whatever they're called. Sometimes you got mini missions within it, and you're kind of racing the opposite team throughout the objectives. That was pretty cool, so I could see how that could work quite well. And in some of the objectives, both teams could interact, and so you could actually fight each other directly while trying to play the mission. So there's a cool concept there. The reason why
you take control of a Tyrannosaur and
that was cool.
Have to destroy the other team.
Yeah. The reason why I kind of think it should be free to play is there's microtransactions all over the place. They don't seem to be overly invasive, to be honest, but they are there. They are clearly there. And I think the price is about £50 for the boxed version. It's that feels a bit steep for me for an online multiplayer, that if you're into it, you're going to be probably indulging in the microtransactions, getting the skins you want for the characters, all that sort of stuff. I don't think anything seemed to be in a very egregious, new characters. I don't think we're fully locked behind paywalls. I think there was a few characters that were locked behind the paywall initially, but I think once you got to a certain level, then you could use in-game points which you collect as by playing to unlock them.
Yeah, that's where I kind of took it from it as well.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the free-to-play model, I'm not sure how popular this game is going to be outside of Game Pass.
Yeah. So
it almost makes more sense to have it free-to-play on all consoles and then just maximise the microtransaction revenue. But
100%. That's, I think, the route I'd go. It's almost as if they just... I almost think that how much they're charging shows a bit of a lack of faith in it, in a weird way. Because if you truly have faith in this game, standing the test of time, you just want to get as many hands on it as possible. and let the income sort itself out as it goes. Which is why something like Game Pass is perfect. If it came on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus simultaneously, and then it was boxed like 50 quid after that, I could almost understand. But if I was a PlayStation only gamer, there's no way I would have even touched this.
No, absolutely not. And I imagine this game is not going to have any kind of footprint on PlayStation. Or does it come to PC as well, or is it just Xbox?
I think it might be PC. I'd have to double check. But this is like the Xbox podcast, so it is on Game Pass. So I do think it is worth a try. If you're a multiplayer gamer, or maybe you just want looking for a game for a play on an evening occasionally with a bunch of mates, I think there's a great fun to be had there.
Yeah, agreed.
I think me and Chris started getting better at it once we realised, instead of just slaying all the dinosaurs in front of us, once I realised, actually at the top of the screen, you have your little objectives. It tells you how many of each dinosaur you need to kill.
Yeah.
So once I picked up on that, I could then actually start calling what we need to do, and that's when I think the team started working a bit. I mean, we didn't win a round, but there was a marked improvement once. Oh yeah, actually, if we just play the objective,
yeah, that probably helps.
But yeah, but that's where I can see there being a bit of fun in it. Like, okay, we need to kill this many Triceratops, or right, we've got a T-Rex coming. Everyone focus on the T-Rex when you get like a team together. There could be a lot of fun in there.
Yeah, and you have much time to explore the classes, or were you kind of playing one particular?
Mainly one. I did bounce around a few of them, but I kind of gravitated towards like the purple guy. I can't remember what it's called, but he was one of the support classes.
Yeah.
But his whole thing seemed to be like restricting movement of enemies and stuff. He had like a gravity shot where it kind of basically like a black hole attack where all the enemies got pulled into one place. I thought that paired quite nicely with then like your triangle button, which was to fire your massive cannon at them.
Yeah,
get them all together, nuke them.
I played the heavy the most, and I can see like how there's a lot of synergy between like purple guy pulling stuff into one mass, and then the guy with like the crowd control weapons just blitzing everything in that tiny area. Yeah,
that's the sort of stuff where that's why I think as an esport it could work really well, and I hope it does find its audience, because I think there is a fun game in there. Again,
I agree.
As I said on stream, I'm not a multiplayer gamer, so the chance of me going back to this outside of streams is probably slim, considering there's other games I'd rather be playing in my free time, like Final Fantasy VII. I've still got Tears of the Kingdom to finish. I've still got Octopath 2 to finish. I haven't even bought Jedi Survivor or Final Fantasy 16 yet. So I've just got a stack of games that I would rather be playing. But
yeah. I think it seems like we're in agreement. It's a great game for Game Pass.
Yeah.
It sounds like your thing. There's a lot of kind of hours of fun in there to be had. So definitely check it out.
I like the chaos as well. Quite technically impressive as well how many dinosaurs you can have on the screen at once, and it ran smoothly. I was playing local on my Series S. Chris was playing for the cloud, and both of them I think were just seamless. Although Chris had
Series S performed really well, I thought.
I think Chris had a few connection issues, but that's probably his internet rather than the game itself.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Have you been playing anything else interesting, Rob? Since we're in the what we've been playing section.
I've just been sucked into Grand Theft Auto 5, back into the story mode again.
Yeah.
Like I never thought I'd go back to that game, but I forget how good it is. Like how it's like the tiny details which like I've remembered and they keep impressing me, and I keep forgetting this is a PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era game, and like you completely forget when you're playing it.
It is, but there is a remaster for the modern consoles, so that you're playing.
But it's more like the details they do. So it's things like when you switch between the characters are doing something like that character would be doing. Like
it's not just stood in the room in teapots.
Yeah, like Michael's getting coffee with his wife. Like Franklin's at the beach working out, or like walking his dog, or like stuff like that. Like it was so ahead of its time, and it does remind you how at least the online section still has legs. They have weirdly kind of swapped the. So it's now on the store. It's not listed as Grand Theft Auto 5. It's listed as Grand Theft Auto Online. Yeah. And then the story mode's like the secondary packaging to that now, which does me a bit.
I think they did that quite a few years back to separate them, because you can buy online separate to Grand Theft Auto 5 now. Yeah. So I think it became such a thing into its own that they just made it a thing of its own.
Yeah. But
both of them on Game Pass though, so.
Yeah, like super enjoying it, and nothing else has had much of a look in. Actually, no, me and my girlfriend started playing Skyrim again. I don't know why. We just did.
What platform?
Game Pass.
Yeah, Xbox or PC.
Xbox, just because we can play it on the couch.
Yeah,
which is the benefit.
When it comes to Skyrim, that is a genuine question. What platform are you playing? Because I technically own it on PC. I think it is on Game Pass, and I also have it on Switch.
Yeah, I feel like I own it on every single platform. I
and you know what?
Some degree.
On Switch, it's not bad.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not the best experience. If I was to seriously play it, I'd probably go PC.
I think I would if I was by myself, but it's more like we're goofing around together, which is the draw of it. Because I don't always want to be stuck in like my office room playing PC games, like just fencing myself off from the world. Don't get me wrong, that's like 11 o'clock till 1 a.m. most nights.
You're literally talking to the guy who moves his consoles out of his living room into his office. But that was for content creation reasons. It made more sense for them to be here, so when we come to streams, I have them there. And the shelf behind me, it's all connected. And so the only console I actually have downstairs now is my PS4.
Yeah.
And I don't know the last time I switched it on.
Anyway.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I switched it on. I think the last time I switched it on might have been when it was in here. Before I switched them over.
So what about you? What have you been playing? Are you still Final Fantasy 7?
Yeah, still Final Fantasy 7. I'm on chapter 15 out, I think, of like 18 now. But chapter 14 is kind of the last big open section where you get loads of side quests and stuff. So I tick through that last night, so I'm now at the kind of basic push towards the end, about to go invade Shinra, that kind of situation. Yeah,
like the narrative's kind of narrative.
Yeah. And then it's like, and then after that I'll be just seeing, I want to play through Integrate, the DLC. With Yuffie and stuff, that was part of the reason why I wanted to replay. And then I might look at the trophy situation. I'd like to get the
stuff in the backlog.
Yeah, I'd like to get, but I've also got no money to buy the new game, so I'm not in a massive rush. As much as I do want to play Jedi Survivor and Final Fantasy 16, my bank balance makes it so I'm not in much of a rush to go buy them yet. I want at least another payday, which is admittedly soon. It's like a week away, but before I buy a new game.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah. I think that's enough of that. Rob, would you like to introduce us to the
excellently examined and excavated Xbox expose, aka the news?
The news. And as always, our news section is brought to you by Helix Heroes, which you can join for as little 99p over on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for your support. Very much appreciate it. Keeps the lights on, keeps us motivated to make more content, and helps us constantly improve the content we are making. But first story of the week, Rob. One of the most important things that ever happened to gaming is finally coming to an end. This is the news that Microsoft have announced the end of Xbox Live with games with gold.
We've kind of mocked this on the show a fair bit, haven't we? Not mocked it, but we've always kind of reported on it and then said, what's the point?
Yeah, because I'm not lying when I say I think this is one of the most important things that ever happened to gaming. But in 2023, well, in 2022 when we first started XPass, it already felt redundant by that point. Game Pass had already pretty much taken its crowns. Like, why is this still here?
Yeah, that was the big question. Like, what's the purpose of this now? Like, you get these two games, and let's be frank, like, the games would have been kind of decent in their own right, and I'm not one to kind of crap on smaller kind of indie titles or older titles, but nobody was really yearning for the games that they were putting out on, like, those two kind of monthly games, were they?
And you also got it with Game Pass.
Yeah.
And the price difference was negligible, so it feels like if you're paying for Xbox games with gold, you could reach for another couple of quid to get Game Pass, and then you get the games with gold plus access to the huge library that you get with Game Pass and all the additional features.
Yeah, exactly. So it probably stuck around longer than it should have by about a year, but
I'd say a bit longer than that. I feel like I honestly think it probably should have just been folded straight into Game Pass pretty much from Game Pass launching.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's a fair point. But with the death of games of gold, we do have something new, don't we, Richie?
We do. As I alluded to at the opening, we have a new tier for Game Pass called when I find it, it's called Core. So with Core, so I'll read through the actual 4 different tiers now, because there is 4 tiers of Game Pass. It's not the PlayStation Plus confusion. These are very quite distinct. So you have Core, which is $9.99 a month, which gives you online console multiplayer, catalogue of over 25 high quality games on the console, and members deals and discounts. Should note that not all the 25 have been announced yet. I think it's like something like 17. We'll get into that in a bit. The console version is $10.99 a month. Gives you hundreds of high quality games on the console, new games on day one, member deals and discounts. The PC version, $9.99 a month, hundreds of high quality games on PC, new games on day one, member deals and discounts, EA Play membership, so I would argue if you have a PC, that is the much more cost effective version. And then there's probably one of the greatest things happening in gaming, Game Pass Ultimate, $16.99 a month. Hundreds of high quality games. It's console and PC basically games. New games day one, membership deals and discounts. Online console multiplayer tends back up, and EA Play membership. So let's look at the online multiplayer section, because we were talking about it before. It's like, it's weird. I've seen a bit of discourse as well on Twitter. It's like, it's weird that it's mentioned in Core and Ultimate and not in console and PC. And do you think it should even be locked behind a paywall nowadays?
Yeah, so this is a really strange one for me. So when I initially read through these 4 options, like if you go on the Xbox Game Pass website, you'll see these all kind of listed out in next to each other, and you see core, you see console, and you see PC. Now, for me, whenever I read anything like this, I always assume that everything that's included in the left hand, or like the base package, like I get all of that and more as the packages go along. So, when I read core, it says, okay, online console multiplayer. I look next to it and it says console, and for some reason I just assume that I get online console multiplayer in those other tiers. But then weirdly enough, that's the weird thing. So, but when I get to the ultimate package, it then very specifically mentions online console multiplayer, which makes you think, oh well, that mustn't be the case. So it's been like a really bad oversight, I think. Like, I feel like this should have been like checked by like a UX or like an outside set of eyes or something like that, because it's not particularly clear at the moment. Like, I assume we don't get online multiplayer with console and PC versions of Game Pass.
Well, it clearly says online console multiplayer, so the PC version completely separate. I think you just get online multiplayer because you play on PC. Good luck trying to stop PC gamers having online multiplayer, Microsoft, and having a platform. Like, I don't think there's a way they could do that, considering they're basically competing against Steam, and it seems like, have at it.
Yeah, fair play.
So in the console space, it seems I'm pretty sure you would get it with console. But then
why wouldn't it say it?
Yeah, or don't mention it in Ultimate.
Yeah. So
they've created confusion, unnecessary confusion. Like,
yeah, and I feel like I've looked like briefly online at like conversations. I don't think anyone has a definitive answer right now, do they? It's still very much we're gonna have to wait and see, or wait till we get clarification.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if you're paying for console and you don't get it.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a slap in the face.
Because then we'll then have to bring out another thing to add on top of console, so you could get it.
Yeah, which leads on to like the bigger conversation where I don't think consoles should be charging for people to play online now.
I don't. I'm with you there.
Like, we talked briefly before like the show came on air, where like obviously a long time ago when online multiplayer games were very much like a new concept, they were probably much more expensive to maintain from a service perspective than they are now, because as we all know, like the more efficient and the more kind of popular something gets, the cheaper it becomes to like
we're
optimized.
talking like original Xbox, maybe into 360 era.
Yeah.
Where I think it's probably arguably the 360 era with things like Call of Duty and like was Halo 2 360 or was that original Xbox? But it's that kind of era where online multiplayer in the console space really took off. It was always there in the PC space, but in the console space, is like, this is why I say Games with Gold was so important, because it enabled that to happen, which is the reason why things like Fortnite exists, like Call of Duty, Warzone exists. These exist on consoles now in part because of Games with Gold. That's just Xbox Live Gold, like.
Yeah, and these are full. Like, games now are designed multiplayer first, and then if you're lucky, you get some half-baked campaign single player. Probably don't get that with most of the popular games now. Like, it feels wrong to buy a game for £70 or whatever, and then be like, okay, there's this like fee you get stuck with to actually play it online. Like, it just seems a bit archaic, to be honest.
Bear in mind, nowadays you might look at a game, take Exoprimal, what we're talking about. So what if I was to buy Exoprimal? I'd have to buy, let's say I'm on Games of Gold, I'd have to buy Exoprimal, say £50. Then I'm paying £10 a month to play it online, and then it's full of microtransactions.
Yeah,
that feels a bit archaic. It feels a bit much.
That's like getting punched in the face and then kicked multiple times when you're on the ground.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's the death of a game like Exoprimal.
Yeah,
because people are like, no, I don't want to pay that much.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the online kind of infrastructure to like enables this online plays so much more mature now, and it just seems like an anachronism. So if you do have to pay an additional fee on console, which I'm not sure if you do yet, that's gonna sting. Yeah. That's like a really, really shitty move on my side.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit now about actually the whole reason that Core exists. I shouldn't mention this getting launched on September the 14th, and I believe current Xbox Live Gold members will get grandfathered into it. Why does this exist? Because I'm looking at the price difference. For £1 a month, you go from a catalogue of over 25 high console games and console to the entire library that pretty much Game Pass has, which is literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fantastic games, brand new AAA Microsoft titles day and date, for £1 a month.
Yeah. So I think this is two things at work. So first of all, they needs to get rid of Games of Gold. Yeah. It just had to go. I think that was one thing. And I think someone probably fairly smart in their marketing department looked at it and thought, okay, we might have an opportunity here to do the Starbucks effect, where a small coffee costs you, I don't know, like £3.50 or whatever, and then a medium costs you £3.60, and like, why would you ever get the small? Like, I feel like the core isn't meant to be bought. It's meant to act as a comparison point to make the console version look far, far superior. Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, one thing I do a lot of work is like pricing strategy and the psychology behind it. And the fundamental thing about that is we don't judge price in isolation. You judge it compared to what's surrounding it. So the car looks like a relatively bad deal compared to console now. I think it's designed to sell more console.
If you think of it in just this terms, in 1 year, it's going to cost you $12 more for console than it does car, and that $12 gets you Starfield.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Forget anything else. That gets you Starfield.
Yeah, forget the kind of like 100 plus other titles you can get.
Yeah.
It just gets you Starfield. Yeah.
So that's how much of a bad deal core looks like in comparison to console.
Yeah, absolutely. But as I said, I don't think it's designed to be bought. I think it's designed to...
Part of me thinks it's one of them, because they could have just went, we're not going to do core, we're just going to grandfather all games of Xbox Live Gold members into the console version. Mm-hmm. But then, for however long people have got, many people have probably bought entire years at a time, they're losing that money, effectively.
Yeah.
Where by bringing in another tier, you can bring in a much weaker tier on paper, grandfather into them, then go, for £1 more a month you can get this, and then you're making that money back out of them. It's only £12 a year, but it's still £12 a year for every single member who's on potentially who's with Xbox Live Gold.
Yeah, and you have to remember as well, like this, like the size of Microsoft, they're like, it may only sound like $1 more for a month compared to like however many people, but these companies grow by like 0 point something of percentage a year, and that's a good year for them. Like,
if you have 10,000 Xbox Live Gold members that upgrade to console, that's £10,000 a month.
Yeah, and it's these tiny little kind of like just enhancements, which, let's be honest, people don't really notice. These little creeps and things like that, which makes a difference between a high-form company. Well, we do, because we're like
paying for stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, hats off to Microsoft. Like, it's quite smart what they've done, I think.
It is from like a purely financial box. It just makes me wonder, like, how many people are actually still on Xbox Live with Gold? How many people have made the step up to Game Pass? Yeah. Because if the number's not that high, I can't see coexisting.
I think what's going to be, there's going to be loads of like maybe older people or particularly younger gamers who like super casual. They turn it on. They don't really like manage a subscription well because I don't know, maybe like they're just not that focused.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure like at some point there'll be an email or like a push notification that says, "Hey, have you heard about Game Pass Console Edition?"
And they've probably been having them and just ignored it.
Maybe.
I feel Game Pass is like advertised everywhere in the Xbox ecosystem.
Oh yeah, but if you're not particularly in the Xbox ecosystem, like and how much you actually interact with it.
If you've just been an Xbox fan since the original Xbox, and you are just the kind of I just play Call of Duty, I just play FIFA, just play Madden, that kind of gamer, you're just paying £10 a month for online access, and that's it. You don't think about it. So you might see Game Pass. I'm not interested in that. This is a Call of Duty box for me. I buy the new Call of Duty every year. I pay my £10 a month. Exactly
that, like an X game box. Like, that was a really bad analogy to use in. Why game box, should I say?
If you are that person, core makes sense to you. Because why spend, and not only £12 a year, but why spend £12 a year for features that you don't use?
Yeah, but I just think like the sheer comparison value will pull some people over.
But the value only makes sense if you're actually going to interact with it. If you just need online multiplayer to play Call of Duty, for example, then why would you pay more for the console if you're not going to play any of the games that you get on Game Pass?
I don't know. I just think
I'm personally pretty much. I've got Ultimate, so
yeah.
I mean, Ultimate gets you cloud as well, so I don't think I mentioned that, but Ultimate is guaranteed in the cloud. I don't think it's guaranteed anywhere else. So if you want to play in the cloud, then you need Ultimate.
I think technically cloud's still beta, isn't it?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it's out of beta, but these new features still meant to be coming, because at the moment the cloud is only Game Pass games. It's not every Game Pass game anywhere, but these stuff like purchased games are meant to be eventually getting there. I think with cloud has been slowed down because there's less pressure on Microsoft to push it hard, and especially over like the last 2 years maybe, while the ABK stuff's been rattling on. And the CMA wanting to being a bit awkward with cloud, it makes more sense for Microsoft to deprioritize it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We should probably touch on the games that
let's touch on the
games. Talking about. Like, there's some pretty good titles in here. So like, talking briefly, we've got I'm not going to list them all. I think there's 25 confirmed, and we've got about 15 to 17 of them so far.
We've got 19 through so far. What I'll do is I'll rattle through them quick, and then we can pick and choose which ones we want to talk about.
Go for it.
So the 19 games that have been confirmed so far are Among Us, Descenders, Dishonored 2, Doom Eternal, Fable Anniversary, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Forza Horizon 4, Gears 5, Grounded, Halo 5 Guardians, Halo Wars 2, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, Human Fall Flat, Inside, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Psychonauts 2, State of Decay 2, and The Elder Scrolls Online, Tamriel Unlimited. That's a decent collection of games.
The first thing that strikes me is how diverse they are, like in terms of like genres. So you've got, like the nice kind of Among Us and like Human Fall Flat for like your kind of, I guess, like softer games. What do you call
Casual.
it?
They're very kind of casual. Yeah. Human Fall Flat, it's baffles me that it's actually one of the greatest selling games of all time.
I love it. It's fantastic.
When I first saw that before, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Well done, China.
Yeah, right. But you've got
Yeah.
those two. You've got your shooters in Gears 5, Doom.
Couple of Halos in there.
Yeah, Halos as well. It's just like a really, really nice kind of demonstration of what's strong in the Xbox kind of ecosystem. Like obviously, like the big titles like Dishonored and Fallout and Gears. Halo,
Psychonauts 2 was in Game of the Year contention when that came out. Ori Will of the Wisps, kind of indie style, very much lauded, as is Inside.
Yeah. Let's not forget Forza as well, if you're a casual racer.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. This is like a really good package in its own, in its own right. And if this came to PlayStation, you'd be like, oh, this is a good service. It's just the fact that Xbox Game Pass main is just
better.
So strong.
Because you get this entire list, plus
whatever else you want.
Plus every single game that Microsoft pretty much releases on the console from first-party studios. Yeah,
exactly. So as much as I'm saying it, I don't think it's something designed to be bought. It's not a weak offering by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it's not weak. This is why I'm kind of saying if you are just... I buy Call of Duty, I just buy FIFA, and that's all I play. I just need to pay for the online multiplayer. While I don't think you should be playing for online multiplayer nowadays, I think this is just a fundamental service that the console should be offering.
Yeah.
Core kind of makes sense. Although I would still just pay for console. Or pay for console, and yes, it's only if you can afford it, if you can stretch that £12 a year, you get access to so much more, and you might find some other cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, like, from comparison to what they've been getting on Games with Gold, light and dark difference in terms of quality. So, if nothing else, you'll be happy come September 14th, was it?
Yeah. I've lost the date. September the 14th.
Yeah. So, yeah. Have fun, Games with Gold subscribers.
Indeed. It is kind of sad. I do want to point out as well, just one last time, that Games with Gold, I think it was so important to the online ecosystem in consoles. It set the precedent.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Goodbye, Games with Gold. Let's move on to Activision Blizzard King, Rob. Because it wouldn't be XPass without talking about ABK. So, deadlines have been extended. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
So obviously we talked about this a lot on last week's episode, where with the UK CMA approval deadline was kind of seeming like an impossible deadline for Microsoft to hit without getting lumped with a massive payment that have to go.
With the CMA, they've agreed to push back they already agreed to push back the deadline and resume talks.
Yeah. So the good thing is they've got an extension till, I want to say, kind of mid-October. No,
October the 18th is the internal date that they've set themselves. I don't know how legally binding that sort of date is. It feels like, considering they're making a big deal out of it, it is. But
I think it just gives Microsoft and UK CMA actually something realistic to strive towards. And yeah.
I suppose this has to be agreed with by Activision as well. Like, they'd have to agree to a deadline to complete the sale, otherwise they could walk away. So it's probably one of them things you just have to have in paper, in writing, when there's sort of merger.
Yeah.
To give that kind of get-out clause.
Yeah, I think that obviously they want to be bought. That's the amazing thing about this. So
they are basically bought. There's stuff that's come out basically said that they could almost pull the trigger in the US, in the EU, tomorrow, if they wanted to basically sign contracts done.
Yeah.
But they need to sort the CMA stuff out, and it's probably going to take a bit longer than just walk in the office, sign the paper, it's done. But they're basically there, which makes sense, because while all this FTC and CMA stuff has been going on, they're not going to be sat there doing nothing. They are going to be preparing for this.
No, absolutely not. And if nothing else, it shows that the CMA have potentially seen the light, or at least become willing to to get on board with everyone else's decisions. So
the rest of the world went, yeah, it's fine, and the CMA just left hung out to dry. So
basically, yeah. So that's good. We'll see how it develops over the next kind of couple of months, but
yeah,
I think the audience might be just completely fatigued about our legal and business analysis on the ABK deal.
I think you just have to remember the CMA were kind of one of the first out the gate to make a decision, and Microsoft has signed a lot of 10-year deals and stuff since that decision, which has probably moved the needle a lot. Talking about the 10-year deals, Sony have signed a 10-year deal with Microsoft to bring Call of Duty to PlayStation, but not necessarily anything else.
This has always been our conversation about this deal, hasn't it? Where Call of Duty has eclipsed any other consideration, like in this deal, like with at least with the general public anyway. And like by the looks of some of the regulators, like the focus has been so intensely on Call of Duty that, again, King has just completely flew under the radar, which is arguably the most important part of this deal, I would say.
I think King is very much an important part of the deal, and arguably one of the biggest reasons Microsoft are willing to pay so much.
Yeah.
But King doesn't change the landscape of the console and PC gaming market.
No,
it just means that Microsoft...
But it changes the evolving market of gaming, which is the mobile gaming, right?
It does. Yeah, so it just the mobile gaming market, it almost feels like segmented for the rest of gaming. And all this really changing there is who's the money's going to. It's not changing any sort of competition within that marketplace, which is why I just don't think anyone really has a problem too much.
Yeah. But as I say, they've just completely excluded all kind of the other strong titles as part of this deal. And I know this won't be the case because someone in Sony will have been thinking about this. Probably teams of people will be thinking about this, but I can't help but think that in a couple of years, the penny's going to drop on how much it's going to affect other franchises just outside of Call of Duty, and they're also going to be maybe we should have considered this as well at the time.
I don't know for certain because a lot of this stuff is quite nebulous, but I thought on the table before now with Sony was the similar sort of deal like GeForce Now got, Boosteroid got, where it's pretty much all ABK games that they're committing to. I think Nintendo's might only be Call of Duty as well.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like Microsoft has done the old classic switcheroo. It's like, oh, well, you didn't back it quick enough, so we'll give you a worse deal on the table.
I mean, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but, if that is what's happening, it does feel a little petty, to be honest. Because I'm pretty sure Microsoft do want Diablo and maybe not Overwatch at the moment, but things still coming to Sony because they've got so many consoles in the wild. They want to get as much money back from this deal as they possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes console locking them could be to the detriment in terms of overall sales. Microsoft want to make as much money from this deal as quickly as possible to offset the cost of it.
Yeah, and that's COD being on PlayStation, isn't it? Let's be real.
I wouldn't be surprised if internally Microsoft got documents that have kind of predicted that this deal will pay for itself within 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
If there's no change in the ecosystem, in the landscape, in the gaming landscape, in 10 years' time, this is just all paid off. Which might be why this is a 10-year deal.
Yeah, and companies like Microsoft have to think that they're not thinking in the next couple of years, they're thinking where's our position going to be in 10 years, or at least it should be. So yeah, good for them, good for Sony.
Yeah,
but keep an eye on non-COD titles, I think.
Let's stick with Activision Blizzard King a bit, actually. Well, more the Blizzard side of it, because Blizzard games have been announced to come to Steam ahead of the Xbox acquisition. So we've got things like Diablo, Overwatch 2, StarCraft are potentially coming to Steam. What are your thoughts, Rob?
You know what? The chance to hop back into StarCraft.
StarCraft's still on.
I know, but but in the proper do you it's one of kind of titles you kind of forget is out there.
Yeah.
And stuff like this kind of just gives me a shot in the arm to revisit all these titles, which to be honest, I've been off Blizzard for a bit. obviously,
Everyone, I think a lot of people have.
Yeah. So,
Well, you look at Overwatch 2. I think Overwatch 2 is a perfect example of how not to release a sequel to a beloved game. They've literally done everything wrong.
Yeah, it just went so bad.
I honestly can't think of any moves they could have made to make this worse. So they went with, you had Overwatch, beloved game by a lot of people, doing very well. Overwatch 2, so they got rid of Overwatch 1, pretty much. Went, we're sunsetting that. Overwatch 2 will include everything you love about Overwatch 1, and we're going to do tons of like PvE, online story stuff, single player story stuff. Then they backtracked on that, and now stuff is getting released as seasonal content, which you now have to pay for. And it looks like even like the esports league is in conversation to just fold the league.
Yeah, I think this is
it's like,
big
wow,
motivation.
You have fucked this, Blizzard.
Yeah.
Like,
I think this is part of the big motivation to get them like listed on Steam. Is like a lot of these communities could use a big shot in the arm for like in the community side of things. I don't think it's going to be enough, but I think it's like that's what they're hoping for, something to happen.
The rumor is potentially if the league falls, each team could get, I think, something like maybe a $6 million payout.
Jesus.
Yeah, so it's like significant money. So I think on that alone, if you're an Overwatch 2 esports player, and maybe I don't know how many people are on the team, but let's say you're going to potentially get a $500,000 payout.
You'd be hoping it falls, wouldn't you? You'd be like, please, like,
yeah.
It also means another title.
It also means that, like, esports are notoriously rough on people because you have to play. Like, it's like, imagine playing a single game 8 hours a day, 6-7 days a week.
Yeah, like,
it's rough. That's rough on you. At some point you've got to no longer enjoy it. It's just the grind.
Yeah, like I know, like physically when you're training for like a I'm not going to use the term actual sport, but I am. Like you're always kind of limited by how many hours a day you can train just for your body breaking down and not recovering properly. Like
same thing happens.
Yeah, but like that cap's a lot higher for games, I feel, and people can just sink 8 hours a day into it.
The mental stress is probably significantly higher than in traditional sports compared to esports, where maybe the physical is less. But there is physical issues that come into it. Sitting on the chair for 8 hours a day, just left and right with the mouse all the time, like it takes a toll. Yeah, so if you were like a top esports player playing like Overwatch, and you got to, I'm assuming at the point you're kind of probably jaded with it, and there's someone offered you $500,000 to no longer have to play it. Yep,
that's tempting.
I'm taking that.
Yes.
So I honestly think I could see this league folding. Like, I think it sucks for the fans, but the game's not necessarily going away.
Yeah, but
yeah, this is all happening.
Cashing out those bags.
I think Blizzard, probably Microsoft now, are hoping by bringing this to Steam, maybe you gets a bit of a shot in the arm.
Yeah, I can't see it being enough because some of these communities, like Hearthstone, and like they're in, I won't say terminal decline, but they're not far away.
And I also think that if you're into Overwatch, there's plenty of ways you could have interacted with it. With it not being on Steam, I don't think is a problem because it is also available on PC. So if you're a PC Overwatch player, you're probably not that bothered that it's not on Steam.
Yeah, true. That's a very good point.
Yeah, let's move on. Few stories to wrap things up. So, GameSet are releasing a new Xbox controller. But the interesting thing is, this is going to be the first Xbox controller to use Hall Effect joysticks. Have you ever looked into Hall Effect joysticks at all, Rob?
All I've gleaned from like Hall Effect controllers is something about magnets makes them good.
Yeah, pretty much. Magnets makes them good. So with traditional controllers, you have physical moving parts that rub against each other the wear down. Notoriously, you get Stcik-Drift. Mm-hmm. It's associated a lot with the Nintendo Switch, but it does happen on other platforms as well. Hall Effect theoretically completely eliminates that potential because it's just all magnetic, so there's no parts rubbing against each other. So GameSet are releasing some controllers. They're wired, which is a bit slightly disappointing potentially, but only $49.99.
That's not bad, is it, really?
Yeah.
I feel like this kind of tech could be maybe on like the next generation of consoles, just like the way it's done as opposed to like a new tech which we're talking about now.
This is the sort of tech where if I was Microsoft, I would be putting this into the Elite controllers, because then you're starting to get to a point where maybe you can justify the price for anyone who isn't just a hardcore esports player who needs the back paddles. Because I've never looked at the Elite controller. I looked at it and go, that looks amazing. It looks probably one of the best consoles you can ever buy. But is it worth maybe 3 times the price of the standard controller? And my answer's always been no.
Yeah, but if there's a much more high chance of the controller lasting the lifetime of the console, with one purchase, then that changes, doesn't it?
The only disappointment for me is this is a wired controller. If this was wireless at the same price, I'd be strongly recommended this is the one you go for.
Yeah,
I haven't been hands on, so take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's like a bigger power drain, which just necessitates it being kind of wired. In the first version, maybe. Like, I assume there's going to be an iteration that comes out where it's wireless.
Yeah, I think it's wireless, wired. It's a detachable USB-C cable, which is always nice because if the cable wears out, you can just stick another one in. Job done. Yeah. It does have things like customizable software. The analog triggers a Hall effect as well, which potentially could mean software patches to get something similar to the adaptive triggers in PlayStation down the line.
Yeah.
Because if it's a software patch to run how you power the magnets, then theoretically it's there.
Yeah, definitely. And like hats off to like the manufacturers as well, who
GameSir,
who could have very easily added £20-30 and tried to like marketing bullshit the way into like a higher priced product. Like, this is very, very reasonably priced.
I think they know that they have to undercut the official controllers.
Yeah.
One of the things as well, I think it's worth mentioning about the Xbox controllers over like PlayStation is when you mentioned the lifespan of having a controller last the lifespan of a console. One of the main issues I've had with my PS4 controllers was just battery decay over time.
Yeah.
Not an issue in Xbox because the batteries are removable.
Exactly, yeah. Which is such a big quality of life detail.
Yeah, which is why I think if this just had an internal battery and could run wirelessly, I wouldn't be worried about the extra power draw. Yeah, it's not going to last as long, but you could also just charge it more frequently, and I think it would be a worthwhile trade-off.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And you could still then just plug it in, like, and run it as it's intended right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I can see these guys turning into like a licensing the tech company as opposed to, or even be bought out by one or two.
I think the tech is just, I don't think it's patented. Maybe certain implementations of it might be, but I don't. It's not unique to GameSir. I know there's other Hall effect joysticks on the market. This just happens to be the first Xbox one. I just thought it's. I do think it's like this is kind of the future. I know, like this seems to be the future of how joysticks go, and this could very much deal with the Stcik-Drift issue, which again mainly exists on the Switch, but also does exist elsewhere.
Yeah.
Let's round things up, Rob. So 2 games that have come out this year, Hogwarts Legacy and Diablo, are leading the European sales for the first half of 2023. Any surprises by this?
I'm not as involved in like the Diablo community, so like I've never been able to judge that game effectively. I know like Diablo 3 was a massive deal when it came out. Hogwarts, so like that's he not there. Hogwarts doesn't surprise me at all. Like, as I think we've all talked about how that game kind of, on retrospective look, it wasn't as strong as the first launch, but Jesus Christ, was it popular, fueled off the IP and the hype.
Yeah, I think by the time you finish the game, you're like, okay, this is a solid 8.5, maybe.
Yeah.
It's not a 10 out of 10 game, but I think in the early hours of the game, you just fell in love with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're a Harry Potter fan, and there is a lot of us out there, and the gamer, you've just been starved of this sort of experience since the tie-in games back in like probably like PS2 era or
let's be
something.
real, it wasn't like a patch
They were
on
not
how
good
they've
at
captured this world.
No, this is exactly like you were in Hogwarts. You were exploring around. Is a great game, and I think it just did. Even some of the guys I play footy with on the Monday, who I'm not not as big as a gamers as like me, you, or Chris, we're talking about Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it did a fantastic job of capturing the universe, and I think for all its like limitations on retrospect, it definitely deserves to be there. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean this is talking just the European sales figures for digital and physical. The top 5. Okay, I mean you've probably got in front of you, so I was going to say, can you guess the top 5? But well, actually, I'm going to go top 10. Top 10 right now is Resident Evil 4. NBA 2K23, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Red Dead 2, that's a surprise.
Alright.
Generally. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, not that much of a surprise, Call of Duty being in here. Grand Theft Auto 5. in at number 5. It's like, that's insane.
This game has like the strongest legs of any title in history. Must do.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if digital includes things like Game Pass, because that might just give it another kick up, but still, it's insane that's in there.
Yeah.
Number 4, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I don't think that's a surprise to be in the top 5. FIFA 23, also not a surprise. And this is for the first half of 2023. So FIFA's probably did more, I'd imagine, the end of last year. Mm-hmm. Diablo 4, then Hogwarts Legacy. I think Diablo 4 is the most impressive one here because it's not that long out. It's been one month.
Yeah, it's had a very, very strong opening. But there's stuff on there which you'd expect to be on there, right? Like the yearly kind of sports titles, like FIFA, NBA. They're always going to be there.
It's Diablo that surprises me because if you look at this month's charts, it's probably number 1.
Yeah. But
this is the first half of this year, so some of these games have had a bit of room to keep selling, like especially Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
It's insane. I just can't get over it.
5 is
yeah.
It's just insane, isn't it?
I mean, Grand Theft Auto Online is in the 20, so it's technically taking up 2 spots in the top 20.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 5 sold more than Star Wars.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16's down at 16th, which is kind of nicely fitting, but it's like I thought that would have been a bit higher.
One platform.
Dead Island 2 is in at 13. Mario Kart 8, like 12. How are these games?
Casual market.
And you know what? I was about to say, who owns a Switch and not Mario Kart? But that I actually don't own Mario Kart 8.
So that's your question.
I've just never got around to buying it. Yeah, but that's just insane. We've also got Resident Evil 4 has sold 5 million copies in 4 months, which I think is very good.
Absolutely deserves to be there.
Yeah.
Love that game.
Yeah. I haven't played it. Can I just have more time? Can we just
more time and less job?
Can I just win the lottery so I don't have to go to work, so I can just play all the games?
You don't need to win the lottery. You just need to find like a strange suitcase with like, 100 grand in. That'll do you for like 4 years.
Yeah, but I think that's all we have time for this week. Make sure, if you haven't already, you like the video, subscribe to the channel or your podcast feed of choice with notifications kept on so you're kept in the loop of all of our great content here at Helix Plays Games. We also have a Discord server, so if you want to join the conversation even further, let us know what is your favourite game of all time and why. Actually, nah. Yeah, let us know what your favourite game is of all time. I want to start a conversation over there. It could be quite interesting over our Discord. We always talk about crazy stuff. It'd be nice to change up the conversation from ABK, which seems to be the perpetual state of things. It's useful for me when I'm writing the shows, but yeah. Thank you very much for watching. My name's been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
GG, everyone. Goodbye.
GG.